everybody, welcome to Adobe Live. This week we're doing UX design using Adobe XD, Adobe Experience Design. My name's Michael Jarrett. I'm an art director here at Adobe, and joining us today and for the next 3 days is Peter Deltondo. Welcome.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm a product designer at GoFundMe, working on their CrowdRise nonprofit platform, and I also run a small freelance studio called Wake Labs and get to do some cool projects there, particularly in the UI, UX, or user experience, user interface space.
Cool, and that's why you're here today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a couple of housekeeping things, some logistics for today. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We're really glad that you're here. Whether you're watching on YouTube or Behance, you'll be seeing the same thing, but go ahead and remember to log into Behance, participate in the chat there. If you are active in our chat, about halfway through this 2-hour stream, we're going to be giving away a free prize.
Super comfy socks.
Some super comfortable, clean Adobe XD socks, yes, confirmed. So again, remember to sign into Behance, be.net/live, and participate in the chat there. And we'll just do a random drawing. If you've participated in the chat, we'll get your name and you might be the future owner of these socks. Also on be.net/live, you'll find a contest tab. So today we're running a contest and you can find all the information there, but in general, today's contest is to design a smartwatch app. And the only thing you need to do is to download the template that we have provided. There's a link in that contest tab. A really awesome mock-up created by your friend, actually.
Yep.
Marcelo. So download that, create a prototype for any kind of app that you can imagine for the smartwatch. And if you make at least 3 artboards and then connect them in the prototype mode, and you'll see some of what we're doing if you're not sure what we're talking about, and send us the URL. We'll be taking a look at those at the end of the stream, which is a really awesome way to get you some practice and for us to see what the community can create with XD. And there will be a free 1-year subscription to Creative Cloud going to, I think, what our favorite is at the end of these 2 hours. So be sure to submit to the contest if you're interested in doing that. And meanwhile, I think we should get started.
Cool.
Let's talk about what you're going to create today.
Yeah, absolutely. Can we share my screen here and I'll walk through some stuff? Okay, so today, let me zoom in a hair more. So I've created this fictional project here and pretended as though I've had a client come to me and say, I want you to build a parent's guide to Disneyland app.
All right.
Definitely inspired because my trip up here, I'm going to take my kids to Disneyland in a couple weeks with my wife and thought this would be really fun. So we want to ask some questions. Like I would talk to the client and say, what makes this app unique from maybe the official Disneyland park app? Because it's a really actually good app.
Right.
And so a couple key things that I've identified is that the voice doesn't have to be magical. Everything about Disney is always so perfect and completely in tune with their brand. And as parents, it's okay to say, this line is a nightmare when you've got a kid that's screaming and kicking. And so it just gives us some freedoms there, and we can point out those things that are really awesome or maybe not so much, and tell you things to avoid. So basically, in a nutshell, it's to give parents the best possible experience that they could have with their family on a trip to Disneyland. So what does the app do? It tells you what rides are best for kids, gives recommendations of maybe lesser known activities or like insider tips about maybe Disney Magic Hour where you get into the park an hour early if you're at the hotel, or just things like that that you might want to do. So for me, if that's the task that I'm given as a product designer, my role is really how can I enhance this? And so from a business standpoint, I need to provide more value than just saying, I'm going to design something really pretty and do exactly what you told me. I need to take this thing to the next level. Yeah. And so how do we do that? And so I might talk to the client and say how I can relate being a parent, perhaps planning for a trip like this, and explain to them why I'm a fit for this project, compared to maybe other designers. And then how can I elevate and take their vision further, and then walk them through my process of like R&D wireframes and taking it into design in a prototype like XD. So I kind of brainstormed some things. My wife and I talked for about 30 minutes and we tried to, spitball what some of these key features might be. And so You know, let's fictionally pretend like we can connect to the Disney, your Disney account and API, and that'll let us do things like book a fastpass, get ride info, wait times, and you know, things that are more relevant to parents that maybe you wouldn't care just in the Disneyland app is things like, is the ride indoor or outdoor? Right. Is there a line with AC? You know, what is the average wait times, height requirements? Are my kids too short to go on something? What's the ride duration? Peter Pan is probably my favorite ride at Disneyland. It's like 1 minute and 42 seconds or something. I want to entertain my kids for longer than that if I'm gonna, you know, sit there and wait in line for 40 minutes. So, you know, other things like talk about spooky moments on kids, things like drops, pro-parenting tips, you know, where's the best churro stand? What's the ideal ride to go afterwards? You know, and maybe connect with influencers and bring them in to enhance this app, do marketing for it, etc. And then we'll kind of brush through some other stuff, but like, where can I meet characters? How can I find my kids' favorite characters, whether it be a ride, merchandise, or to go meet the character itself? And then things like dining, best places to eat for you know, with kids. And then on the larger scale, I want to bookmark some of this stuff, get those general tips, magic hour, rider swap, so parents can wait in line and change. You know, ride closures. My daughter loves fireworks. I think the fireworks aren't happening while we're there. So like, good things to know and set expectations for your kids. And then kind of lastly, some cool things that are, you know, maybe account or setting specific is, you know, things like maybe booking a trip, which we talked through and decided, hey, let's not do this, at least in this iteration. Maybe that's something we build on after the app takes off and whatnot. But there's a lot of complexities to that. It takes them out of the experience. But then the big thing is connect a family member. So I want to log into this app with my wife while we're there, share our fastpass, share our favorites. You know, you can put notes in there for your kids of like, oh, we went on Pirates of the Caribbean, our oldest loved it, our youngest was terrified. Like, remember those things for the next time you go. And then building some profiles. So maybe when we onboard the user, that we ask how many kids you have, what are their favorite characters or rides or movies, and we can kind of build almost like a agenda of sorts to give them this experience. And so that's kind of what we're going to build today.
Cool.
So we'll go through a couple key screens. We're not going to do all of this in 6 hours.
Comprehensive.
But this is kind of how my brain starts to tackle a project and dive in from there.
Right, and on that thread, actually, is this kind of a typical, is this typically where you start your process and asking some of those core questions that you had at the beginning across any kind of project and then getting down and specifically?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a big kind of like from the gut kind of designer. Yes, you have to test and research and everything, but I find the majority of the times your initial reactions and ideas tend to hold true. And so anytime I'm even on a call with a client or in a meeting, I pull up, you know, IA writer like this, and I literally list out and bullet things as I go and ideas I have and things of that nature, because this kind of becomes like a source of truth of what I want to come back to and eventually build, and it creates my task list.
Right, and maybe even helpful for managing expectations with the client to say, is this kind of what we're talking about here, to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, when you put that proposal together, really important.
Great. Well, I think we should dive in, get into XD and see what we can do.
Cool.
And while he's doing that, I want to suggest that if you haven't already in the chat, let us know where you're from, where you're watching and listening from. It's always great to get a sense of who we've got in the audience.
Yeah.
And it looks like people are really looking forward to this. Some people are saying this is such a fantastic idea.
Oh, no pressure.
No pressure.
So one thing I wanted to point out that I think is great here, just as you enter into Adobe XD, obviously you can go through the tutorials. They've got UI kits for things. I went through and I got the Apple iOS kit before because I want to design for the iPhone 10. And so I like to have in mind things like the notch and the screen cutouts and things like that. So I'll usually pull that into the file. But before we do that, actually let's open it so we have it. And then, yeah, if I open up a new, and I can come right here to iPhone and I can just pick iPhone 10 and it's already gonna have all the artboard pre-created to spec for me. So it's really easy to jump in now and work with the project. And so let's come here and I'm gonna pull in a couple of things that I know I need. So I'm gonna grab, let's start with this guy here, just our time bar.
And this that we're looking at, this is that iOS kit that you mentioned for iPhone 10 specifically.
Correct.
That's where all these common elements are.
Yeah, and so I'll just drop that in, I'll center it up, I'll line it to the top, and then I want to come in here as well, and within this display shape, is that the one? Let me find it, I grabbed it the other day. I think. Yep, that's what I want. All right, so I'm gonna grab this notch and just lay this right on top. I'll name that notch, and I can lock that as well. And for the moment, I'm just gonna pull it to the back.
Right.
I know I'll have to move that back and forth a couple of times, but now I've set up my screen here. I've got my light status bar. I'm sure at some point I am going to need my dark status bar, so I'll grab this one as well.
So a lot of kind of really important foundational pre-work just to kind of get yourself set up so that when you start designing,
Yes.
the really creative stuff, you can just move. And
Right.
you know that you're not going to have to, you know.
And I might even set up these as
Backtrack.
templates and just say light screen, and I'll call this one dark screen. Here, I'm gonna delete that, and then I'll pull and duplicate off of these boards constantly to create new screens here. And
Really easy to do.
the last thing I want is I'm gonna grab these elements as well. So just a little notch here at the bottom.
So we've got people all over India, Canada, Colombia, Boston, England, Russia, Barcelona,
guys.
Romania, Hawaii. We've got some Californians and the snowy tundra of Minnesota.
Oh, that's got to be Evan. Yep.
That's heaven.
All right, so we've got this set up. This all looks pretty good. So another thing that I'll do here is just kind of create a quick little task list of some things we know we want. So login, we talked about an onboarding flow for the family. Then we want to have some kind of map, wait times, character finder, and let's do ride info. And we'll start there. I know there's like a ton more that we need to have.
Already, that's a lot.
Yeah, so I'm gonna commit like sort of a design crime, but there's a reason for this.
Okay.
And I might not have it on my computer. Hang on, let's see. I had to reformat last week, so some stuff got lost. Let's see, log in. There we go. Okay,
Oh.
Comic Sans.
Let's hear about this.
So when I start prototyping stuff out, I actually like to use Comic Sans because my brain can't take it seriously. So I don't look at it as like a design element. It's just kind of like crap on my screen.
Right.
So yeah, I kind of intentionally wireframe ugly.
Wow. That, as in all my years of thinking and about Comic Sans and hearing everything there is, that's one of the most rational explanations.
Yeah, because if I did this in like Proxima or Open Sans or something like that, then I start seeing it as design and I start picturing everything like that. And so this just helps me look at it and go, okay, it's login.
Great. So it's actually kind of an intentional way to sort of set aside or blind yourself from a bias so that you can focus on what is purely functional right now.
100%.
Getting things out there.
Yeah, and then I like to work on an 8-point grid, so all my stuff's going to be like 40, 48, 32. So maybe we'll come here and let's do it this way. 343 is going to give me 16, and that'll work for now. So we'll do like login. We know we need our username or password, and then we actually need fill, which we could just make this for the moment. Maybe we've got something like this, and we'll come up here and maybe like whatever logo we create. So again, this is super rough. Login screens are kind of boring. I'm not going to really like comp this out for now. But we'll come in, we'll take a look back here. So something that could be really interesting is creating this like login flow. So once I set up and create my account, let's do something like, let's find out about your family. And then center that back up. Oh yeah, I forgot I gotta do that as a text box.
Yeah, the two can actually be converted between each other.
Oh, how do you do that?
Yeah, just to the right of the justification options. Now, something interesting, I think if you, in one direction you're going, it kind of inserts some interesting line breaks that you might have to delete. But I find it helpful for starting with a paragraph, and then when I'm happy with how it's formatted, I switch it to a single line, and I can just resize the whole thing really quickly without worrying about
That's super
font
helpful.
size.
Okay, so I want this to be a little bit smaller. Bigger. Let's go 24. Okay, and then we'll ask, how many kids are you bringing to Disney? And now that I know that trick, let's do that. Go 343. And again, I just know that number because that's what's going to be precise to
The grid.
yeah. And my font sizes are going to be kind of like annoyingly large at the moment. Again, it's just to get the point across. So we know we have something like this. And then maybe what we'll do is we'll have something here. Let's just say 64. And then let's do 2, 3, 4. Bring these over and let's bring 5 in there just for alignment. Okay, and then let's shrink all of these guys down to maybe like 40. We'll center that all up. And then let's make these guys kind of faded back. So maybe this will be something where the user is going to scroll through, set the amounts, and as I'm saying this, I'm designing these on the wrong screens at the moment, so I'll just bring these over. All right, so we know we're going to pick how many kids. So the next screen that we are going to have is, let's say child 1. And maybe here we'll do something like, we'll add an optional photo of them. So let me come in here into Nucleo, let's say camera. Let's do something a little bit bigger for the moment.
And do you want to share with us what application this is?
Yeah, so this is Nucleo. I also use Icon Jar a lot, and both of these, what they'll do is you can import your icons into Icon Jar, or Nucleo is a specific icon suite. And what I like about these is that I can just go in and search camera, and it's now showing me icons related to camera. And so it just saves a lot of time versus going through like a long Illustrator document or something, trying to look at the categories and all the random icons that are within it. So it's a huge, huge time saver for this. And
these are icons you created, or this is community sourced?
No, this is a premium icon suite.
Okay, yeah.
I think you can get it between 50 to 100 bucks, depending on the time of year. And so we'll come in here and just for the moment, I'm gonna grab this, and let's see if I can make this one of our styles. I think this is what you and I were talking about before. So let me create a symbol.
Oh yeah, with the Creative Cloud libraries.
Yeah. I might need to bring it into Illustrator first.
Well, and if you check the window menu, and then at the top.
Which one? Oh.
And then, where are our libraries? Let's see, there is a libraries tab.
Well, while we figure that out, I can pull this over here off to the side, and I'm going to grab that icon. I'll put that here inside of this circle. And I'll just align these elements up real quick.
Okay. In breaking with other Adobe app convention under the File menu, there's an open CC libraries. There we go.
Awesome.
Or Shift Command L, and from here, you could set up.
Right. So let's see if that'll work then. I don't think it's letting me pull that in. That's okay. All right, so here maybe we'll have an add photo, and then I want to pull something in as well that is maybe going to say, let's find out like what is your child's, or let's just say favorite character, movie, or ride. And then let's pull that in here. So that's a text box. And let's just make this 16 for now.
Kevin Schneider says 2018 is the comeback of Comic Sans in the UX UI industry. Right here.
All right. See, like you guys can't take that too seriously now. It's just, it looks funny. So we're just getting the points across. So we'll have this ability. They can add that, and then I want to do something where, let's say, my daughter is super into Big Hero 6 right now. So we'll say Big Hero 6, and then maybe I want the ability to like add another option as well. So I'm not going to get too picky as to like what icons I'm choosing yet. I'm just going to pull something over for purposes. So maybe after you pick Big Hero 6, you could optionally add another one, and that way you can build kind of like a profile
really quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so once we're done with that, you know, let's move down here and we'll just create another button. And oops. And we'll have that go to continue. All right. Actually, let's tell the user what they're going to get next. So next child. So we'll go through there, and then, you know, theoretically we could do the same thing for parents as well as any other kids in the party, because there's certain rides I want to go on Disneyland. I want to make sure that happens too. That's part of the parents' good experience. So we'll go through here, and we know that then this will become like parent. And I really want to go on that new Cars ride because I watched a video on YouTube and it looks really fun.
In doing your research. Right?
Yeah, I mean, no parent goes to Disney without research.
No.
And so we'll say maybe complete family profile. Okay, so once we go into here, now we know that as the user jumps into the app, you know, we're going to need to have a custom navigation. And like, how is the user going to get through these different things? So let's come down here and I'll delete this. And I've kind of outlined this out. Let's just double check what it is. So I think we prune this down, my wife and I prune this down to favorites, map, general tips, and then account, which will include your settings and profiles.
And favorites in this sense refers to, I mean, anything that you bookmark within the app, whether that's a map or information or a video or something.
And we'll still allow the user to kind of like filter and sort within the favorites for all of them. That way it's not like just some big bucket list, but we want them to have those key things. Maybe they go on a ride that they didn't expect to like, and it ends up being like a really awesome experience. So, cool. So we'll come down here. And, you know, I'll just kind of block out some space, and we'll check what height this should be later, but let's just make this like very light gray for the moment, and pull this back a bit. And then I know that I'm going to have 4 different navigation items here. So we'll do that. Then I think we can come here and group this and repeat our grid. There
you go.
And then boom. That works really well. And now we'll just center that up for the moment. So I know that I want to make those 4 things really easy for the user to interact with and just have that at like the tip of their fingers at all times. So let's see here. We've got, kind of spread these out a little bit more.
Yeah, and actually I think because you created 2, it's going to assume that that's one unit.
So let's go back and we'll do 1.
Yeah. So for anybody that doesn't know what Peter's using right now, it's a really awesome function within this app called Repeat Grid. Huge time saver, essentially allowing you to create and style one element, whether that's a button or an icon. It could be, a single unit in a much larger list. And then you can duplicate that, and XD will do a lot of the work for you to just kind of bring up a bunch of copies, as many as you need. You can set the kind of padding between them, and then I'm sure later we'll get into it either today or sometime later this week, but we'll look at how you can actually add content to that text and images, and it will just automatically apply to all of them.
Yep.
And what maybe takes 10 or 20 minutes can be shortened down to 1 or 2.
And what I totally should have done was included the text on those as well.
As part of it.
I would have duped it over.
Yep.
So, cool. And so again, spacing on all this stuff is totally off at the moment. We know that. We're just trying to flesh out some ideas. And so we'll take the user in here and, maybe I want like a little indicator too. So I'll do, maybe something like this just to show which one is active. All right, and then up here, let's see, what do we want to start with? Let's do our character finder first. So the way I'm picturing this is, one thing that I really like about the Disney app is that like when you're looking at the map, you can side scroll and go through like attractions and rides and shows and all that through like one key screen. And so I want to keep that functionality. They use like a side swipe at the top of the screen. And so we'll build something like that as well.
And that side swipe is a filter for the map view?
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah. So, because there's so much to see at Disney, there's just a lot to go through. And so I know that I'm going to want the ability to search. And so I'm just going to grab this icon over here. I'll bring that over and we'll make this 16 by 16. Nope, that broke. We will do 24 by 24. Let's do that. Okay. All right. And so we'll do something like that. And then I know I'm going to want my navigation over here. And we'll have, let's start with like rides. And again, I'm not too worried about what my spacings are for this kind of stuff. I like to get through this like as quickly as possible and just get the ideas out. Otherwise, like you will get stuck and you start, that's 23 pixels, and you go to 24, and before you know it, you spend like 30, 40 minutes correcting your file rather than getting your ideas out there.
And by the time that you eventually do reach a screen like this, you might realize, wait, the problem I solved with the spacing over here is inconsistent.
You have to redo it.
You have to redo it again.
Yeah. So we'll go like attraction or rides, characters, and then we'll have maybe shows, and I want to do something that's going to fall off the page to show this. So maybe restrooms.
There you go. We saw somebody request that in the chat earlier.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
you got to pee at Disney.
Yeah.
It happens.
So Alexander has a question. Do you usually start from iPhone X and then scale down to other iPhone sizes? How do you manage multiple devices as far as your workflow?
So my development team might not always agree with me on this answer, but I like to start with iPhone X just because from a visual standpoint and from like a stakeholder standpoint, getting like a board of directors or something to sign off, you like to design in the newest, sexiest, screens and prototypes. And that's, you kind of always have to design for the future.
Right.
At the same time, you can't neglect everything else. So what I'll usually do is I'll design everything at, whether it be iPhone X or iPhone 6 and up, I think is more or less the same spec other than height. It's 375 wide. But what I will do is when there are key screens that I notice this is going to require more intricate layout in order to like reformat this into like a 320 pixel grid for, I think that's like iPhone 4 and up. I will build out a companion screen for that at 320. That way we're able to see and make sure that it does solve the problem in both situations.
Just solve your hardest problem in those cases on multiple screens, knowing that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think otherwise you end up like cramming everything in a 320, and then like it's harder for development teams to scale that up to look better, but it's always easier to scale down design-wise for a harder problem later. Right. So I like to do it that way.
Cool.
Okay, so we know we've got something like this, and maybe we'll give that a little bit of a background. So we'll just pull that here to the back. All right, so, okay, we know we've got something like this now. We can side swipe through, and then I think I saved a little Google map of Disney. So let's throw that in there, and we can do that. This is one of the cool things with XD that just like, it reminds me of how Apple makes products sometimes, not so much with the dongles, but with like things just work as you would expect.
Yep.
I remember my first Apple computer, I was determined not to Google a problem I had or ask any of my friends. And the problem was I didn't know how to delete something. And this was back like, I think I didn't even know how to right click on a Mac then or something, but
File.
yeah, or no, it was to uninstall an application. That's
Okay,
what, I can delete files, but I couldn't uninstall it. And I finally gave up and called my buddy, and he's like, okay, if you were a child and you don't want something anymore, what do? I'm like, you throw it away, just pull it in the trash can. And it blew my mind how simple it was. And what I like about this is that for somebody coming into this app that maybe isn't as experienced in design or masks, which for a lot of people is super hard to like really understand that and get the hang of it at first, the ability to just drag and drop stuff in here makes this really easy to work with. And then let me see, can I manipulate the shape inside of here as well?
You should be able to, those control points that make up the rectangle that are clipping your map, are able to be edited. If you were to create maybe an irregular shape, is that what you're saying?
No, like if I want to move the graphic like up or down, or is it?
Oh, it's kind of just this auto.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So nonetheless, like I've
in InDesign where you can jump into the frame and move it around. Yeah, that'd be nice.
So here, I just pulled something from Google Maps. You know, I might later like grab something from, if we're gonna use the Disney API, like I'll grab their official one. It looks a lot better, but I have to stitch that together on my phone first, and I didn't have enough time to do that. So, you know, we'll want something like this with the map. And then let's say we've got ride selected. So, you know, I'll grab this guy, debut, and we'll pull him up to rides. And so like we'll just really quickly create some shapes. This is that ride I want to go on cars. And so I'll come over here and take this down one more time. Actually, just do this. Just want to create a little triangle, so I'm going to rotate this guy. And that'll work for the moment. Then I can combine these shapes, and then boom, I've got my nice little pin. So, I'll come over here.
While we're building this map, I want to go ahead and remind everybody that if you haven't already, but you're interested in participating in today's challenge, you can win a year subscription of Creative Cloud. And you can find all the info for the challenge in the challenge tab, which is next to the chat tab. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and jump on over to be.net/live and sign in there. You'll find the challenge information. Plus, if you're here chatting with us and asking questions, we've gotten some good ones so far. You know, in about 30 minutes, we're gonna give away some swag, some socks to somebody random in the chat. So be sure to keep asking us questions. Let us know what you'd like to see, what you'd like to know. And in the time that it took me to say that, we have a fully populated map over here for Disneyland.
All right.
Challenge hype.
So yeah, now I know I can look at these rides here and just get a quick glance at what the times are, and I can, pan through my map and check out the whole park and see what's going on. And then I could click into any of these as well and get like more information about the ride. So let's check that out now. So let's come over here and let's pretend like now we're on characters. So let's see, we've got that. All right, so now I want to create like a character screen. And so I'm not sure how I want to do this, but let's just like make something up here for the moment and like pretend what this could maybe do. So I either want to tap directly into this and get more information, but as I think of that, I think that causes a problem because I have an idea of what I'm tapping and like based on where it's located, but maybe I could be wrong, or there could be a couple of rides like packed really close together and I could tap on the wrong thing. So obviously we need to be able to zoom in and out on this map, but maybe what this does is if I tap it, it expands up a little bit, and maybe I get like a little graphic of the ride, whether that's in, maybe something like this, and then there's some text that says Radiator Springs. Well, actually we said this is characters, so let's do Baymax. Actually, let's do Mike and Sully.
There you go. So you're talking about revealing more context before actually diving fully in and committing the user to an action, but kind of meeting them halfway to give them more information.
Exactly. So they know here that this is Mike and Sully. If they want more info, they can tap into this once more, and like we'll grab a profile of that. And so I'll come over here, and I've already prepped some images. So
you got it all.
We've got Monsters Inc. Let's just come in here, and I'm gonna grab this one for the moment. I'll throw that in there. So cool, we've got Mike and Sully. So this is a point where in my design process, like I probably cross a line to where I feel like I can start designing things, and I'm not so worried about just prototyping out. I keep it loose and I'm very fluid with it, but I want to start seeing something. I want to see this come to life a little bit. So with that, let's now yank this out. I've got my characters. I've clicked into this, so maybe I don't need to see this information anymore because I've selected that. We could probably get away with removing this stuff too, because again, I'm going into like a profile page, so we could come back. But for the moment, I'm going to leave it and just see what that kind of looks like. Yep. So let's come here. Let's grab a back arrow.
We got a question. Where did I see that?
I see somebody asking about using a grid. So
yeah.
I do use a grid, especially on desktop. I'll usually use like a 1140 bootstrap. That's pretty common for most projects. 12 pixel because it's divisible by 2, 4, or 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 6. That's why I went into design. I'm not stellar at math.
on live camera.
And then, for mobile, I'm less worried about like so much of a grid. I'll usually do something, I think I have it laid out here, is like 4 columns. I just know I want 16 pixel padding on the left and right, and then I'm not really that concerned about what's within that later. So yeah.
All right. And the question I was looking for from Will Trurin, what are your thoughts on skipping wireframing and creating high fidelity comps?
I mean, it's totally fine to do that, kind of depending on what it is. I think I caught a little bit of that stream, and I noticed she said that she has a botanical business on the side. So that's probably something she's very familiar with, has worked in that space before, and so it's a little bit easier to kind of pull that kind of stuff in and hit the ground running on it. It's a project by project.
Sure.
Some I like to do it. Others I want to get some information and not focus on the design. Whereas there's some projects that you feel like your design drives more of things. So you play it by ear.
But it definitely seems like for you that this wireframing is a huge part of the process. Ultimately, probably saving you time, saving you hassle later if you hadn't fully considered this larger experience before getting into the real pixel pushing and everything.
Exactly. I mean, we've probably been wireframing or designing for 20 minutes on this stream, and we've already knocked out like how many steps and processes here, and just kind of already gotten some of the bigger picture items tackled. If I tried to flush out the design of this and match the spacing and everything, it wouldn't go, through that same process. Right. But now I feel like I'm ready to incorporate a little bit. So again, I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to take a look at some graphics that I've got. All right, so I think I want to use this guy here. Pull that in, center that up.
Nice high quality.
Yes.
Furry graphics.
Yeah. All right, and I'd be okay if he was off a little bit, but no, I want everybody to be in the frame. I want to center this up and like visually center it. All right, and then let's pull this up here. And where's that line? Okay, so we come to the top. I'm gonna bring this down, maybe 80. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go 56. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Are you able to change like the nudge settings in XD?
I haven't been able to find it yet.
I was looking for that hard.
Because if you show the grid is in 8-point increments, but the shift click will give you 10 typically. So you kind of have to do a little bit of mental math, some subtraction or addition to get it there.
All right, and then let's make this really cool. So I think one of the things that's really fun about Disney, especially when you're there, you just get like immersed into this experience. And so I want this whole screen to feel like you're just living in the Monsters, Inc. like kind of world experience. I don't necessarily want this to be super clean or like, really white or minimalistic. I want this to feel very much Mike and Sully.
Right.
And so what I'll do here is I'm going to turn off the fill, and I've moved this all the way to the back, and I can even move this behind the notch. And I'm going to come to fill, and I want to switch this to maybe a linear gradient. I tend to like to go corner to corner on my gradients. That's just total preference. And I'm going to use the eyedropper here. I'm going to click this first point, so I grab that color. And we'll see which way works better. I'll try and do maybe a green to blue. We'll see how that looks. That's not too bad. But let's try maybe a little bit more purple and kind of Sully's bluish color.
Also not bad.
Yeah. So, all right, if you guys like one, let me know, and we'll use that one. But, all right, so I've got my characters. I want to move this up. Actually, let's move this down a little bit. And now I want to start picking out some fonts. So I'm going to come in here, and just because I haven't used this font in forever, I'm going to go with Proxima Nova. So Mike and Sully. And then let's set that to Prox.
We all get to bid farewell to Comic Sans.
Yes, we have crossed the threshold.
We're on the other side.
And let's go kind of big. And let's do like, let's go extra bold for now. We'll go white. And I want this to be really big. So let's try like 72.
And it's nice. You're able to kind of get a little bit more playfulness, some sort of humanism by giving this big, bold.
And then I even want to bring this up a little bit. So let's go. Now I'm going to get a little picky with my sizes. Go 24. I want to pull this here, and then I'm going to add this font style. So I've got that now in my library. And maybe I want to make it a little bit more subtle. We'll play with that. I might come back to that idea. Okay. But we're going to come back to my layers, and I want to pull this behind them. So it's kind of got like a background feel. We'll pull this down a little bit more. And all right, let's go with something like that. I I think this is going to interrupt the feel that I'm going for because I want them really immersed in that character. So I will come here and I'm going to delete those. And now let's go back to our list and look at what are some of the things that we talked about with characters, like what is really interesting. So important things would be locations to meet them. There's actually fast passes to meet Disney characters, not just for rides.
All right.
You could wait 45 minutes to wait and see Elsa, which is every parent's worst nightmare. And there's also things we want, toys and merch. If my kids really love this character, maybe they want a t-shirt or a plush toy.
Bring something home, yeah.
I know I went in October and I wanted to get my daughter Nick and Judy from Zootopia. And like only 10% of the stores had something, but I checked everyone to find for something good. And I went back to the very first store I went to as I came into the park that had the best stuff. So I want to know where I can go for those kind of things. If there's shows that are related to this, we talked about the fast pass. If there's rides that they're involved in, maybe you can meet them characters, dining, things like that. So, and then just to touch on this sidetrack for a second, an idea that we killed as we talked about this was like the ability to connect your Disney Photo Pass or even just take photos within this app and like save it. And that could be a marketing thing to make this app money, where we sell photo books or collages. We could share to social, which would share that you're using the app, kind of like a Snapchat filter or something. But I think this is too much, especially for an early version of the app. There would be nothing more frustrating than trying to, I want to take a photo. I just want to pull the app open on my phone, not worry about opening up the app, waiting for their photo tool to load, and then take the photo. I might miss those moments.
Right.
And that frustration could then negatively impact the experience users have in this app and go from a great guide tool to, oh, this is frustrating, I lost something.
Right.
So we're going to kill this. It's not going to be part of it.
Yeah, and so that's an important idea to bring up, is to sort of dream big and shoot for, think and ideate what this could be. And there's no bounds to that.
Right.
But at a certain point, understanding, what does this need to be?
Mm-hmm. So let's see here. Pull this over a little bit so I can kind of see that. So locations to meet. Let's pull this down now. I'll start creating a couple more type styles. So we want locations. And we can make this a lot smaller. Let's go like 14 maybe.
Somebody says this app needs to be pitched to Disney.
That would be cool. Yeah. All right, so we've got locations. We know we need, what else did we say? Locations, merchandise.
While you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and remind everybody to go ahead and enter the contest. We have only 3 submissions so far. I know it's early, it's a big ask to do an app design, but a lot of great tools, and we'll be reviewing them maybe a little soonish in our segment, and then definitely at the end we'll be reviewing all of them. So if you're working on that, keep going, and if you're not, check the challenge tab and see if that's something you're interested in participating in. Also, in about 10 minutes, we'll probably do a random giveaway, some XD socks. If you're participating in the chat, I know a lot of people have been asking questions, and we love that. So, including this question: do you create style guides before you start designing, as you go along?
Yeah, so I definitely do it as I go along. There's things like this that I'm starting to set up, where I chose like this type style. I don't know if this is going to work when I get to a different character that has like a really long name or something. Is it going to have to be adaptive to where it'll just fill the screen to a space, or do I set a definitive text style? But I generally find with like any kind of design system, you really need to almost build out maybe 75-80% of the app before you actually build those styles. Otherwise, they're just constantly changing and evolving, and it's kind of frustrating to keep up with it. So I hit a point, and then I start to build those out.
Right. So your design styles are not only built just from, your style, your taste, your aesthetics, but to actually solve the problems in this app. And until you start to uncover those problems, you might not want to lock yourself to something just because it looks great on one screen.
Because you could build something out that you have like a 40 pixel tall button, and then it becomes 48 or 32, and it's tough when it's constantly evolving. So once you get through enough that you know what the right size is that fits everywhere throughout the app, then it's really easy to go back and modify that stuff.
Right.
So we've got here, we want to meet, what rides this character might be on, merchandise, dining, and let's say experiences or shows. Shows. Okay, so now I know these items. Question is going to be, how do I lock this layer? How do I want to display this information? So maybe we'll do something like, we'll center this. All right, so meet character. Let's see. Roaming times. And then let's do say 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. And then we'll pull these over to the side so I know to reference it, but I'm going to create a repeat grid here. Just do that for the moment. Then we can send this below our notch, our status bar, home indicator, that's the one we want. Okay. And so, let's see, what did I space that out? So I want to go a little bit more to 24. And now let's see, rides. I'm not exactly sure what the ride of this is called, but we'll say booze escape from, let's do booze escape. All right, so we've got booze escape. Let's see. I don't think there's a show for this one, so we're gonna skip that because that's not available. But let's do merchandise, and we can say Main Street Toy Factory. And we might need to ungroup this. Oops. There we go. Okay. And what else? Dining. Let's have Californian character buffet. It sounds like we're going to eat the characters, but that's okay.
Character buffet.
Yeah.
And this is all just from your knowledge. I mean, these names and things are your knowledge of the place itself.
Totally. If we had more time, I'd probably have the Disney site and app like up next to this and compare. But for purpose of this too, I don't want a lot of visuals being exposed to me at the same time, because I want to design this just through my own creativity and not like, if I saw something, I might directly reference that thing and copy it. And so there's things that I know I want to bring over, and like I know Disney does this exact feature. They do this side scroll. And I'm doing that intentionally because I feel like that's something that people are familiar with, and it's a lot easier to interact with than, say, like a drop-down filter. But I don't want to have like dribble or behance or other things up, because otherwise I'm going to see something, go, I love that, and then how do I do the same thing but not copy it?
Yeah, and so, it's easy to just, and if it's one thing, 1 minute or something, there's something else that'll catch your eye too.
Totally.
Yeah.
I try to do a really good job. Like I use some Chrome extensions that every time I open up a new tab, I get exposed to new work. And I like that because then I get glances at things that I don't have to save, but I've seen it. I know that I could do in the back of my head like a solution like that or a visual in some kind of way. And then I just keep that stuff stored. And so when I have something that comes up, I could say, oh, I've seen something like this, but I don't remember what it was, which then lets me do my own take on it rather than replicate something. So let's do this, and then let's do a version of the same screen with, let's do a different character, and I want to show one that does a fastpass. So
looks like a lot of people are into that idea of Chrome extension. You want to share what it's
called?
Oh
yeah, there's a couple. You can use Panda 4, which is I think the one I use, and then Muzzly is another one, M-U-Z-L-I. That will do the same thing. And you can hook it up to Behance projects, Dribble projects, awards, one-page love, all kinds of cool stuff.
Awesome.
And get exposed to different projects. So let's bring over Baymax. If my daughter is watching this, she just like screamed. All right, so again, I'm going to kind of visually center this project.
I love how big and immersive these images are. That they're coming off the screen.
And that's the thing is like, there's a balance here that we have to think through from a user experience standpoint of, do we want to have something a little bit more minimalistic that maybe engages the user right away and gets them to see all this information? Like, we talked about a lot of stuff here, and some of this you have to scroll to see. But I think that's okay because that Disney experience is getting to see all of this, getting immersed in the character, and I think in this situation, that trade-off is worth it. But I would definitely build out both prototypes eventually to compare and test it, but I think this looks cooler, so we're gonna go with that.
Cool.
Okay, so let's see here. We've got the two of them, and I mean, they're really big, so I'm okay with this cutting off the screen a bit. Maybe we do something kind of like this. Let's go there. All right, so that keeps our information about the same space. But we've got some different challenges here on their names, so we'll have to figure that out. But let's say we come here, and maybe that's a reason that, like, even on this one, maybe it does go over the characters, and then maybe, you know, we pull them up a little bit so it looks like that. You know, we have the freedoms here to do those kind of things. So we'll come here and we'll go, ooh. If anybody in chat knows, is it Hero, H-E-R-O, or H-I-R-O? We'll see what somebody might know.
Fastest answer wins, if it's correct.
And Baymax. All right.
Here we go. We got a definitive answer with an I. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Okay. So
and actually, in the spirit of that participation, I think we should do a random giveaway soon.
Let's do it.
Somehow, somewhere behind these cameras and screens, a wheel is turning, names are being tossed around, and one will be presented to us at some point. Giveaway hype. Alright, confirmed hero.
There we go. Okay, so maybe something like that works better for the names, and again, we'll keep playing with that. I don't want to spend too much time for prototyping purposes at the moment on that, but let's come here, and I want this gradient to be different. So let's try pull like the red from him, and then I'll come down here and let's pull the purple from this. Well, that looks pretty cool. Okay, so we know we've got our roaming times. There is no ride for this, which is a bummer because that would be super cool. Merchandise, let's say there's no dining. 1, 2, 3, then let's just pretend that maybe there's a parade. And science is cool. My wife will also love that because she's a science teacher.
All right.
That's why I like Big Hero 6. Teaches you that being smart is a cool thing, and you didn't have to get bullied for being the smart kid. You were just cool from the beginning.
There you go.
So I think that's an awesome message about Big Hero 6.
Good lesson.
Okay, so we have roaming times, but let's put in here, I mean, let's change this just so it's different. So let's say like 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. You know what? Let's change this to make this kind of exciting. So we've got our roaming times. And then I want there to be a fast pass for this. So, let's see. I want to create. I'm going to do this off of memory. So their fast pass icon looks something like this.
Design challenge. I saw this thing recently where I don't know how it was set up, but they asked people to draw really popular logos based on memory and then organize from the most sort of authentic and true to form down to just, you know, I mean, it was like something like the Starbucks logo.
I saw that. Right? I saw that thing, and like it was crazy. There was one brand I remember that was pretty spot on, and then others were like completely missing the mark on most of it.
Yeah, and you see a lot of people's historical associations with the logo too, like an old Burger King logo. And it's like, did you even know they updated it? And maybe not. That legacy has some power.
So to show people what I'm doing here, I want to manipulate the shape. So I know that fast passes require, or not require, the icon they use is basically like a square, and it's kind of tilted into a little bit of an angle with like rounded corners, and it has fast pass or FP in italics. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select my shape, and I'm going to click enter on my keyboard, and I'm going to grab these 2 points, and then I'm just going to use my right arrow key and knock this over maybe 4 times. We'll see how that looks. And then I'm going to do these guys, 1, 2, 3, 4, and more or less that works. Awesome. So then I'm going to come in one more time with my text, and for the moment I'm just going to make it like that close color. Let's make this smaller, like 14, and we're going to say FP. Again, our text color, let's go somewhere in the middle so that this looks transparent is what I'm going for. 24, let's go like semi-bold italic. That's not enough for memory, so let's go, I think I'm creating, there we go. Okay, so I've got that. I need this to be a little bit smaller, so let's go maybe 16. And that's pretty good. So there's our fast pass. And so now if the user clicks on that, that would take them to book their fast pass. And because we're, again, theoretically connecting with the Disney login and app, we're able to do that.
Cool. You ready for a giveaway?
Let's do it. Who gets?
I know we teased it a little while ago. GusBot was running around. We do have it though. So, drum roll please in chat for today's pair of Adobe XD clean socks. It goes to Ariel Taggart. Congratulations. I think we should see you tagged in the chat soon. There you go. So thank you for joining. Everybody, thank you for contributing. Ariel, you are the newest owner of these socks.
Those socks look really comfy. All right, and so something else that's kind of cool here is like, you'll notice here in XD, I want this screen to have some more information. And so I can pull the screen down. I still see my notch as to like where my true home is, but XD puts in this cool divider line, which I'll make this, turn this off for a sec so you can see it, but like these dashed lines is just showing essentially where the fold is on a mobile device. And so it helps you see and understand what you're doing and like what is gonna require a scroll. So I just think it'd be fun to make this particular character a little bit of like a rare gem. And so that's why I gave him a roaming time of only 1 hour, whereas like other characters are out longer. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull this down, and then maybe I'll grab this text here. Just create a new text box. Type something, so I've got it. Let's make this white, and let's do, where's regular, okay.
Thought you had it.
I did too. Okay, regular, so here's a good example of, as I'm building this, what I want to create is like a text block that maybe talks about this character a little bit, and I want to be a little cheeky with it, but as I do that, I'm noticing like, okay, well, I want this to be, it's a text block, it should be left aligned. It's going to look weird, I think, being center aligned with like random paragraph copy text. And so I don't know if this is going to look weird. That's one thing that I did recognize in the official Disney app, is that they do a lot of stuff that's like left aligned, then centered, and then divided in the middle, and it just kind of has that like rivered feel to the app. And you know, it probably doesn't bother most people, but like the designer in me, it irks a little bit, and I want it to be more uniform and intentional. So I don't know if that solution is now the right one, but let's come here, and I do like that type style, so I'm gonna add that, and now I can come here and apply that style, and let's just say about Hero and Baymax, and then copy this, and I want to have a regular, let's go a little bit larger. Let's make this easier to read. Maybe we even go 12, no, that's too much. Let's go 18. One thing I know I mentioned, I work on an 8-point grid. When you do typography, 8 points are really difficult to work with, because otherwise you're left with like 8, 16, 24, 32, and there's a lot of jumps. So even though I will work with an 8-point grid system, you know, for everything else, I'll generally do 4-point for my vertical rhythm for that kind of grid, and that just allows a lot more flexibility in font sizes, so I can pick like 12, 14 kind of breaks the rule a little bit, but at least my line heights and things will fit with it. It gives
you ability to kind of finesse a little bit tighter with your rules.
Right. So let's see here, about here in Baymax, let's have this go the full width, and let's write out some kind of cheeky copy. So let's say like the elusive, what was it? Or let's just do like an elusive Pokemon, Baymax or Hero and Baymax are a rare, I'll fix that in a second, are a rare find in the Disney parks. It's a real gem when you spot them for a quick meet and greet or photo. Let's just even stop there for the moment. So,
designer, great writer, copywriter.
That's one thing. Every designer should really be writing your own copy for designs. Like if I just threw Lorem Ipsum in there, this wouldn't have any character to it. It doesn't, like I said, I wanted to be a little cheeky. This isn't a Disney app. I can say something that says Pokemon related to Disney, and it's maybe a little bit humorous. And so that kind of stuff is really nice. So try to write your own copy. It's really, really good to do, and I think it makes you a better designer because it makes you think about things more intentionally than just slapping copy into something. So
yeah, and I like to think actually, you know, as a designer, you in a sense are a storyteller, and you're using visual and spacing and finding rhythm, typically with graphical elements, but in the same way that a narrative is formed with words. And to kind of be able to put all that together, you really can own that narrative in a sense if you need to pitch this to a client or if you're building something for yourself.
Right.
To have thought about that, I think, makes stronger designs.
So as we mentioned, I don't know if I can, what do you call it? I don't know if that center align is going to work as well. So I'm going to now test out like what would this look like if stuff is just left aligned, and maybe it's something like that. One thing that I don't want to do is just have like dead space down the app here at all times. And so maybe what I will do is, let's turn on our grid. And I can see here, okay, so maybe what I can do is I can also bring these guys, I'll left align them and put that there. So the problem is that like this is just clearly too long. So I might try and say, okay, well, what if I did make this smaller? All right, it still doesn't fit right. Good problem that I'm not sure the answer to at the moment. I could break it into another line. I don't know if I want to do that, but for the moment, let's go with that. So 24, let's do 32.
Maybe the roaming times happen multiple times a day, but you know, again, what you just identified is that perhaps your run times are always just on one line, you know, one stretch of time, and this might break too, so you have to kind of figure out how they're going to be relate to each other.
So, I mean, that could be tough. I really don't like the way how this looks. So maybe I can do some stuff where I come over here and now to help reduce this, maybe I drop the larger text and this becomes my roam time. So let's do 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then Main Street Toy Factory. All right, now that's starting to fit. I mean, granted, there's always exceptions to these rules. So it might work now and then it might break later. But let's test out, like we have to go through these ideas. What would it look like if we did iconography for this instead? So wait times, let's just see what I can get. Like wait, I don't think these are clear enough to user, but maybe something like this guy here, our little sand clock. So I don't know what style I want yet, but for the moment, let's try this like lined icon. And I'll pull this in. I want this to fit into my system, so let's make this 32. It's kind of big. It feels like a title in that sense. And then I will come in here into my layers panel. I'm going to recolor all this to white. All right. And so I'll see here, okay, we've got that. Let's say merchandise, maybe toy.
Shop or something.
Yeah, I like shop, like a shopping bag. Because that's the thing is like with this kind of iconography, again, I don't necessarily think this icon suite is the right one for this, but just for speed purposes right now, it's what I'm using to pull stuff from quickly. But, you know, we have to think, okay, merchandise that covers toys, apparel, shopping cart, shopping bag, like what most symbolizes this. I know Disney uses a shopping bag with like mouse ears in it. And so, again, we could create something like that later. But for now, let's just grab a little shopping bag, and this guy works pretty well. So I'll bring him over. And again, I want this to be in my grid system of 32. I'll recolor. Right.
So Ahmad is asking, these icons are included in XD, and actually the icon set that he's using is a platform called Nucleo.
Yep.
Yep. So yeah, it's external to Adobe, separate from Adobe. Pay for it, and then you have access to an entire suite of icons for use in your designs. And just so everybody knows, we're about 15 minutes away from kind of closing the submissions for the day for the contest. So again, the winner of that contest will get a year subscription to Creative Cloud for free. Today's contest is to use the Apple Watch UI kit, which was designed by your friend Marcelo. Build an app with that. I mean, design an app, at least 3 screens, and kind of quickly wire them up using XD. And if you share that link with us, we'll kind of take a look at them in 15-20 minutes, and we'll be looking at them and picking our favorite for the day. And it's the last contest of the day. There will be another contest tomorrow, separate from this, so there's always a chance to tune in again and keep creating.
All right, so let's do a fork and knife. So we'll use this for maybe a dining experience. So you notice how we switched to actual design, and I'm checking the spec of everything, and it's slowing me down. Yeah. So again, make sure you guys jump in at like a point where you feel comfortable with that. Otherwise, your time gets like cut in half.
Right. Yeah. For those of you that didn't know, and in fact, maybe after we do this, we can kind of zoom out and show the expansive work that we've done today. We spent just about 20 or 30 minutes really quickly wireframing an experience, screen by screen, not focusing on design, not focusing on color or imagery or even type really. And we were able to Peter was able to build a huge part of the workflow, and now we're at the point where we're making some design decisions that are a little more formal, color, spacing, size, things like that. And we've got more people watching now than when we started, so welcome to everybody who's just now joining us or has joined sometime in the last hour. We're going to be working for about 40 more minutes, give or take, with Peter here. He's going to be back tomorrow, the same time slot, for 2 hours, and the following day, and you'll get to see this app as it expands, and he'll be working on it, which is going to be really great, sharing some knowledge.
I have no idea what kind of icon would work for a parade, so we're going to come over to Noun Project and see what they might recommend. That's actually kind of cool.
Can you explain a little bit about what Noun Project is?
Yeah, so Noun Project is a icon, I guess, aggregator, community driven, and people upload their icons there, and so you can use it for either free personal use with credit, or you can purchase them for like $1 or $2 and use that within the app. So, or use that within your project. And there's also like subscriptions for this and stuff like that too. So let's see, we said parade. Let's just see if I can get like a waving, celebration. Let's try one other. I've got this parade.
This is like when you're writing a paper and you have to crack open the thesaurus to we're like, how many different ways can we type in parade until we get kind of what we need? Like, what is the essence?
Completely intuitive in like how they're tagged. Yep. But for quick purposes of this, I'm going to pull something maybe a little bit more generic, and I'm just going to say like people, and we'll do like an icon like this, just because I don't know how credit works on like a live stream like this with all that stuff. So we'll grab people. We'll come here, and again, I would probably redo all these icons later. And I want the lined version of that, just to be consistent. Come here, make that 32. All right, and make these guys all white. Okay, and so again, keeping in mind here that I know the icons in here aren't right, but now we have to ask the question of, is your average user going to come here and see this and understand what wait time is, shopping, food, the parade? And I feel like for the most part, everything but the parade here largely works. I think an hourglass timer is clear as to, actually, it's probably not the right icon because we're giving a period of time that you can go see them, not a wait time. But I think one of the things that I had done earlier, and maybe we'll kill the parade and we'll drop this down here. And let's pull actually all of this over. Let's have location. Let's do just like a pin. This one will work for now. Here, let's do this guy.
Sean, thanks you for sharing your thought process about design, you know, in addition to some of the formal stuff.
Thank you.
That's what you're thinking about.
I think that's the most important thing with product stuff is that, you know, there's not necessarily like right or wrong answers. And I personally believe that, and if this is small, so like we said, we would zoom out and see kind of the process of stuff. But I mean, you run through a lot of ideas, and I feel like you most often have to go down 5 really bad ideas to find out which one works, or maybe that it supports your very first decision.
Right.
But it's really important to just like quickly hash these out and, you know, see what works for you. So as we come in here, ungroup this. I think I did that on accident. Let's make all these guys white. Okay, so now I'm gonna take this fastpass out because that's throwing off my flow. I like the feel of it. Pull these back up. Let's make that 32 pixels apart. Okay, so here we're gonna say California Adventure. Okay, we'll sync all that up. Maybe we can abbreviate this a little bit. I'm cheating. This is totally not the way you should do this. But it'll look a little bit better at the moment. Okay, so that's like the worst thing you could do is I do that in application. You should solve for the hardest problem rather than do something to make it easier, but we're gonna make it a little bit easier. Okay, so we've got this. Let me turn on my layout here. And I wanna just kind of roughly center this up, my left and right, okay. And so now, I think this is a lot more clear. So let's pull these all down just a hair more so there's more space. Because what do we have it? 45, okay. So let's do maybe 48, just to give it a little bit more breathing room. 40. Okay, so I think this is really clear now. I come here, I read a description about them. I know that they're located in California Adventure Park. The wait time, see, I'm catching more stuff. Okay, so I need one more thing here. I think this is 32 apart. So I want this to be my wait time. So I'm gonna move this guy over to here, down center, and then delete that. Okay, so let's say wait time is, let's say it's outrageous. It's 45 minutes. I'm using capital spacing on everything else, or capital casing, so I'm gonna make that uppercase, and then this is gonna be the time. So I need a different icon here. I want some kind of like watch or clock, and for the moment this one will work just fine. So we'll pull that up to here. I'm gonna make that 32 so it sits pretty. And make these all white. Boom. Okay, so now I can look at this and go, okay, they're in California Adventure. They're elusive, so they're only available from 9 to 10. It's a 45-minute wait. That doesn't leave me with a lot of time for this. It's also going to kill a lot of our day. So, and again, we can find store merchandise here at the Main Street Toy Factory, character buffet for a dining experience. But now let's say I want to be able to book this character for fastpass. So I might pull this guy over here, and let's do 56 for our button. And I'm going to create a button here, and maybe I'll have this sticky to the bottom, and I can kind of simulate what that looks like in a minute. But let's have this go edge to edge, and I'm now going to want to make this text white, and I want to copy over that gradient,
Nice.
which I'm going to make this. And I don't know how I like that, but where I'm going with this is I'm going to pull this over here, pull that up top. Yeah, I definitely don't, that gradient's just like too strong in this application. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just like pick a solid color, more about the range that it's going to live in, and then bring this down to.
And here you're kind of creating your primary call to action.
Right.
Knowing, you know, the information that you said about this being, them being elusive like Pokemon.
Right. So book fastpass for ride or character, which that could potentially bring up a different issue that we now have to talk through of like, we're giving two options here. I could fastpass for, oh, excuse me, I'm solving a different problem.
Because they don't have a ride.
They don't have a ride, but if they do have a ride, I've got to figure that out. So maybe what I would do in that case is like, maybe I'd put the fastpass icon in the middle, and then I'd have like ride or character visit on the side, and it's like kind of a split button with a little divider. So we'll see how that works. But like that would be a solution for Mike and Sully that both roam and have a ride, and that would require something. So let's even set it up for that. Maybe I come here, this goes back to my color, this box goes back to white, and maybe we give it a little stroke.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Shadow's probably a better idea. Ooh, I like that. That works. And I'll come back and like adjust that later, but I want this to, again, be in my increment. So let's try maybe, no, it probably needs to be 80.
We're nearing a couple minutes away from when our challenge window, you know, the window to submit your contest challenge entry is going to be over. So if you haven't submitted, if you're making the final touches, if you're waffling between two design choices, I think you should just commit one. Click publish in the upper right hand corner, get a link, a shareable link, and send that URL to us. All that information's in the challenge tab, and here in a minute we'll be taking a break to look at some of those to see what you've been working on. We are getting submissions. This is great.
Okay, so now what I want to do to see what that actually looks like is I'm going to tighten up my screen again. Close. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dupe this screen, and I'm going to grab kind of all of my elements. All right, and I'm going to pull, oops, missed one. Okay, so I'm going to pull that up now to this point. And send this all back behind the notch. So one other thing here is, like, on this screen, for example, this would probably switch to the light status bar, just for better readability. So I would go back and update that in the past. And then I'm going to tighten this up to be 812, which is our iPhone 10 screen here. And now as we zoom in, I can see that this bar, grab this group, move it out for a second. So this is definitely sitting a little low. So I want to bump that up, which means I want to bump up all of this a tad. I'll pull this back down. Now that feels better. And then I'll come back here again and pull that below the notch. And like this kind of works.
Yeah.
So again, super prototype, a lot more work I would want to put into this, but I'm able to see what this looks like. So we start here, we get that really immersive experience with the character, we get a description about them, and then I can scroll through, get some information, I know where it's at, and like if I click on this location, you know, maybe it takes me back to the map view and shows me where they're at. I see the time available, the average wait time, where I can buy stuff, where I can eat, and maybe the character shows up, and then I want to book a fast pass so I don't wait in this line.
Right.
And I go through that. And I think that works pretty well. So that's maybe how I would do the character.
That's great. Well, it looks great. A lot of really great thinking too. And again, yeah, I want to zoom out just to go ahead and show everybody, maybe if you weren't with us in the beginning, kind of where we started, because it actually started outside of XD. It started with a list of requirements and questions for yourself about what this app can be and how it can be even better than maybe the initial brief would have you suggest.
And I'll show you guys too, like I was just playing with this over the weekend, kind of getting some initial ideas too, and you can see here, like as I was testing this out, I mean, look how many different versions and slight variations of like ghost button, what if it's just text, what if there's a button in that kind of CTA, what if we center things up, what if it's left aligned and big text, and so you just have to go through and test all this stuff and try it. And again, like my first iteration, this looks nice, but as soon as I introduce another necessary requirement, this idea fails.
You're right.
And I need to, you know, pivot and move on to something else. And little things like, I don't like how this guy just floats in the random abyss. But when I move it into something like this, all of a sudden it works a lot better. So, and if we theoretically had that view where there's, say, a ride, it's behind the notch, where it's a ride and a experience, maybe we say book ride, and then our fast pass meet fast pass ride, and then we could really easily come in here. I want to do just like a 1 pixel line. Let's make it like 24, no, gotta be bigger, 32 height maybe. I want to have it be in between indicator. Just do this by eyesight, but maybe about that. There we go. And now I'll just we'll just do it visually at the moment. But now I can easily tap on either side of this and book the type of fastpass that I want. So I know that that solution holds up in that instance, and maybe I bring this down to a lower opacity just to make that a little bit more subtle and keeps the focus on the CTAs.
Right.
So really quick, but I mean really easy to build something like that out, and we'll move on to something else because I could just make more screens of characters like all day.
I know the feeling, right?
All right, so let's see.
Do you want to review some submissions?
Yeah, let's do
Cool. All right, we're gonna switch screens here. Thank you for everybody for submitting to today's contest. Again, there's gonna be contests tomorrow. It's gonna be different, so tune in all day and kind of get involved in that. Today's contest, it was to use the Apple UI kit that was built for XD and to make really any kind of app, and to include a few screens to show that experience and the design and everything. And so we're gonna be taking a look at 7 of them right now. And this first one right here, personal waypoints. So maybe this is navigation or map making, but let's just go ahead and click through it and enter the experience. And as you're looking at this, feel free to give your thoughts and feedback if you have it. Let's see where we're gonna go. Where do you want to go?
Let's go family at Disney. Oh, they did Vegas trip.
Maybe that's where the adults want to go after Disney. Okay.
So what is it that we're getting information or seeing about here? Like friends that are nearby?
Yeah, maybe. So back in. And it looked like maybe this was a group. So a group of people who are associated with this trip in Vegas to see where they are. Maybe get them.
Yeah, because they said beacons, so like showing where everybody is at.
Cool. It looks like, oh yeah, that might have given us some info. Great.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks for submitting. Let's switch on to this one. All right. Today, watch app. So kind of a all-in-one look at the day.
Mm-hmm. So we're at 14.
Oh, all right.
What is that? 14 inch. 10:30.
Oh, here we go.
So those are like attendees of the meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me make sure I knew what I clicked on. So I clicked on meeting, and here we go. Design team quarterly meeting. Gives you the room, time, and you can call people. Should be great if you can't find who you're meeting or what room. I think there was something else too if you scroll down here. Some news.
I really like that view of the news. That's one of my complaints on the Apple Watch is like the news pops up and you only see one thing, but you kind of want to see a whole slew of them.
Yeah, you need a scan, right?
Yeah.
See what you're interested in reading. Cool. Flip through these, make sure. Oh, here we go.
So your route for the meeting.
Yeah, this is good for me. My bus is often delayed. Nice, simple, graphically kind of simple forecast. All right. Thank you for the Today Watch app. Cool. Liking this kind of color. Maybe some more contrast to help that title pop out. All right. Really clean. Heart rate.
It's like there's like a overlay on that one as well.
Mm-hmm. Little circular overlay.
Yeah.
It's great. This definitely fits in the Apple ecosystem, it looks like, map view.
Nice.
Yeah. Cool. There's a lot to explore here too. This looks like you spent a lot of time making screens. iterating quickly, hopefully. And now we're back at run. Awesome.
Nice.
All right. Live now. This is Russia 2018, so Olympics?
Probably.
Matches? Tennis?
Yep, there we go.
Oh, of course. World Cup. So what's great about these prototypes is, you know, just sharing anywhere. Basic functionalities really goes a long way in kind of showing people what your intention is, what the possibilities for the apps are. I'm so tempted to just want to scroll on it actually with my hand. So. And Suarez scored.
Reminds me, I used to have a LA Dodgers like beeper, Motorola beeper. I may be making myself sound old. That I had in class, and like I would get the live updates, and this totally reminds me of that. Like
just the Dodgers.
Just the Dodgers. Like I'd hide it so the teacher couldn't see it, and I'd like pay attention to the games during class.
That's awesome.
It's like back in grade school.
Well, and it's a similar challenge, obviously. I don't know how much design could influence the UI there, but tiny screen, what's important? I think that's really becomes critical to this. So I saw this one earlier, and I want to make sure that we give it some time. It was having a hard time loading earlier, but interactive bedtime stories to your kids. How does that sound like it'd be good for you? On a little watch.
In person or remote.
Oh. Maybe if you're away traveling, you're somehow able to connect with video. You familiar with any of these stories?
I am not. But I can tell you a lot of the Pixar stories almost word for word for my daughter.
I'm sure. Use a frog voice.
So one thing that I would say on this app, less important if it's remote, but if this is meant at all to be a tool to like maybe use in the bedroom when you're putting your kids down, is just the choice of like a light UI versus a dark UI.
Mm-hmm.
A dark UI is going to help keep the room darker and easier to read, where something like this could pop up and like make you or your child more awake. So I just pay attention to that.
Yeah, environmental context is pretty big. Cool.
Yeah, I would definitely see something like this probably more useful even if remote on a phone more so than an app, just because it's really tough to read. But I like the concept of this. I would encourage Lindsay to do this as an iPad app as well. I think it's a cool idea.
Cool. Thank you, Lindsay. All right. Smartwatch app. Your smartwatch tells you it seems that your message is a special date. All right. Shall we read it?
Yeah.
Your smartwatch also has a gift for you. That's great. Let's get your gift. Oh, cool. Nice little gamification, kind of. I've actually thought
that.
Yeah, you know what? I had this thought. Super quick aside, but you know, often in the digital age we're living in, it's far easier to send somebody a gift card or something, or send them a playlist electronically, but you sort of have removed the entire gift opening unboxing experience that's very experiential, and this is kind of an interesting concept to bring back in.
It makes me think of like a video game of like, you know, you hold down a button and wait for it to fill in order to like open something or whatnot. I like that.
So we'll tap until the gauge is full, and then a birthday song plays. What else did you expect? I'm a smartwatch. Humor.
Yeah.
That's great.
I like that. I would one thing on this one, I get it at the end here when it's a smartwatch, but like I would name your smartwatch, give it some more character. I just think it brings a lot more personality into that.
Cool. Thank you, Denise. And finally, a messaging app. Okay, let me make sure we're on the first one. Select contact. Send something. So voice transcript. Somewhere.
Maybe it there.
All right. Cool. Nice use of color, I think.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. So just to quickly cycle back through what we're looking at. We've got a messaging app. We've got a smartwatch app for your special date, bedtime story, World Cup, kind of keep up to date with that. This was kind of a health tracker and UI, today view for everything, and then beacon. So all these are really great. We get to award one.
Ooh.
Based on anything, concept, it could be the style.
Taking over your computer.
That's fine, yeah. Gotta get the experiential treatment.
Yeah. I like how this one included the transitions as well. Like things like this, just like that floats in really natively.
Yeah.
So we pick one winner.
Yeah, and while we're picking, I encourage those of you that either submitted or just are kind of familiar with this to kind of put in chat like what a big challenge for designing specifically for an Apple Watch is. Obviously size is kind of an issue, and so where does that kind of come into your design process as a challenge?
So I think I'm going to go with this one here. The reason I like this one, there's some things that I know, super small timeline, and I'm sure we'll go back and update later, but it feels the most familiar to that of an Apple Watch app.
Right.
It just feels like something that I intuitively understand how to use. It's very useful. I get to see the information that I need. I really like the news view here on this, and I think that a lot of stuff here too with like the meeting, and I'm sure you could scroll down and like get more information about the meeting, but this feels really simple, really straightforward to use. So this is the one that I would pick. I also, as like a second runner-up, really like this one. I just think you executed out a really simple idea extremely well, yeah, I think it's a great job.
All right, cool. Well, it looks like we've notified the winner. So thank you to everybody for contributing today. I think we're going to wrap up here in about a couple minutes, but while we do that, do you want to just go ahead and say like really quickly what your plan is for tomorrow? Because people can tune in and kind of watch this app come to life even further.
So yeah, I mean, I think with this, my process, what I like to do is build something out, step away from it a little bit, and like come back tomorrow with a fresh set of eyes, see if it is the right solution that I built out. But now that I've built out like a character view, I want to see when I get into other areas of the app, can I carry this style over? Do I have to modify some things? Right. And basically at that point, I want to see if this shared style works across the board, or if I need to make modifications, which may bring me back here and I have to tweak some other things. Maybe it's not a full screen like gradient blowout here for the characters. Maybe that's just the top section and it's something where this has to maybe cut off here and then it's text on a white background or something. That might work better when we get into like photos of the actual rides or whatnot. So that kind of thing. And I think tomorrow what I'd like to build out a little bit is the onboarding process for this and what it looks like. And then one of the features that I think is really exciting in this idea is having the sync functionality between you and whatever other adult you're going to the park with to be able to share the list and notes and things like that between yourselves, and maybe tackle a little bit of the favorite section and like how you would create a little agenda or something from that.
Cool, yeah, because you're definitely got to use some teamwork to get through the day with a full family and everything.
Well, where that idea came from, and again, this goes back to like I think it's really important if you're a product designer doing UI UX stuff that you are familiar with a lot of different apps out there. So part of what spurred that idea for us was that when my wife and I were pregnant with our second daughter, we downloaded this app that let us pick baby names, and it's like Tinder for baby names. So you're swiping left and right whether you like them, and then it would sync our selection. So whenever we both liked a name,
Wow.
it would put that on like a list of you both agreed that you like this. So that kind of brought in this new idea that maybe I wouldn't have thought of had I not experienced that other app. So it's really important to get out there and try different things, be exposed to different things, both on the computer and technology, and just out in the world to
Right.
know what is out there that you can do.
Cool. That's great insight. Well, thank you for joining us today. Again, everybody, Peter's going to be back tomorrow at the same time slot and the following day. You can follow along to watch this app get developed further, to learn a lot more awesome design insights. Also, there's going to be giveaways, probably more socks. I don't know. But there will definitely be a contest. And tomorrow's contest will be about UX design, using some templates probably. And if you submit to that, you may have a chance to win a 1-year subscription to Creative Cloud. So.
Yeah.
We're signing off for the day. Be sure to tune in tomorrow. It'll be morning for us. It might be some other time for you, but we'll be live again. And thank you, Peter.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on.
All right.